everybody, and welcome to KSAT's Race for Seis webcast. I'm RJ Marquez, and joining me is the one and only Mr. David Sears right here. David, it's been another interesting week for the Spurs as they get ready for the rodeo road trip. Of course, they have a tough loss at Cleveland, but they bounce back with back-to-back home wins here at the AT&T Center. David, what are your thoughts after these past 7 days and heading into this weekend?
I tell you what, when they were playing New Orleans, I thought, everything's going pretty good. But the week before, the game before, when they were playing Orlando,
right,
and they blew that 18-point lead, and Orlando actually got the lead in the third quarter, I thought, man, oh man, could it come to an end against Orlando? And then they just blew them up. But,
and even,
I was a little worried there for I mean, it did run through my mind.
Right. I mean, it's like who's going to be the streak breaker? Of course, it'd be amazing if they went 41-0, which has never happened in NBA history. But even the pesky Pelicans, as I call them, they always play the Spurs tough. But the Spurs got big-time games out of LaMarcus Aldridge, especially, and Kawhi Leonard. And another guy who's caught fire in the past few games has been Danny Green. He's been shooting lights out from outside the three-point arc, and really he's just another big part of this team that has to kind of get going this year.
He's, 47%? He was 4 of 8 the other night against the Pelicans, and he's now up to 47% since January. So, and we've seen it against the Heat. We've seen it in other playoff games where sometimes Danny was the X factor in playoff games because he could stand out there and knock down that three. I remember LeBron talking about how, all of a sudden Danny Green hits a big three against him when they were playing the Heat in the finals. And so, yeah, they got to have him. That's what loosens up the inside, and especially if they're going against Oklahoma City or they're going against Golden State in the playoffs. I mean, he's got to be able to, I don't know that you're going to match, Steph Curry threes for three when Steph is hitting 11 and scoring 51. Yeah, they're not even. I don't know if Danny Green's going to knock down 11, but they got to be able to hit some threes, and he's got to start feeling it from three-point range. David,
you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier about Tim Duncan. There are reports now that he is possibly going to be out until after the All-Star break. The one thing I noticed from the Spurs schedule side of things, they are just backloaded on that. After the break, I think they get lost at the Clippers twice. They get Golden State 3 times. They get Oklahoma City twice and Memphis twice. Do you think this is part of Pop's plan, or do you think Duncan is really kind of a little bit more injured than what we're led to believe?
Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe not. I mean, I don't know that he would sit out this long if he didn't have some sort of injury. But the fact that, and you mentioned Golden State. They got Golden State twice in the last 4 games, home and home. So why wear out your superstar, especially if it's helping LaMarcus, as we talked about earlier, kind of find his way through and get a feel for it and start becoming that guy that we need, especially offensively. But then again, you're looking at 3 or 4 playoffs. You're looking at 3 probably tough playoff series in the West.
Oh, yeah.
So do you need him now or do you need him then? You want that second spot. You'd like to have the first spot, but I mean, chances of catching Golden State look slimmer and slimmer all the time. So, but you want to be in the top 4. You want that home court advantage, and then you're looking at, let's face it, I don't know that they're going to sweep it. They may sweep the first round series or 5, but then you're looking at their number 2 and things are the way they are now. You're looking at Oklahoma City in the second round.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 5, 6, 7 games there. And then you're looking at, 6 or 7 against Golden State. So where would you rather have Tim? On the rodeo road trip, wearing his knees out, or would you rather have him for the playoffs?
Yeah, that's a great point. David, looking ahead to this weekend, Spurs have an interesting back-to-back. They're going to head up I-35 to take on their rivals, Dallas Mavericks, always playing pretty tough, and then they come back home on Saturday to take on the LA Lakers. 2 old rivalries. How do you see these games playing out?
What was it? There was a time when I think it was a 10-year span between the Spurs and the Lakers had won 6 or 7 of the finals back in the late 90s and early 2000s.
And
so
you can actually throw the Mavs in there that one year that they got.
Yeah, I mean, Mavs, and then he cares about the Mavericks. I don't care about the Mavericks. But, but you remember, I mean, it was either the Spurs or the Lakers winning the finals. But Kobe was. Behind the scenes, Kobe was a nice guy. I always remember going to locker rooms on several different occasions, and he looked down and just called me San Antonio. He knew I was from San Antonio, didn't know my name, but he just said, "Hey, San Antonio, how's it going?" I mean, that was just awesome stuff.
It was a great time in NBA.
What's your memory? You know, you watched it.
Well, you know, I think just the back and forth nature of it. Of course, when the Spurs beat the Lakers in LA, I mean, it didn't happen here, but when they beat LA and they ended that three-peat, and Kobe was crying on the bench, and Derek Fisher was crying on the bench. I mean, that was just such a huge moment for the Spurs because they had won that '99 championship, but you know, Phil Jackson was always like, that's the asterisk. That's the asterisk season. So, you know, it's just, I mean, I thought that was a huge moment for the Spurs franchise. And then, of course, you know, hey, Robert Horry, the shot that he rimmed out, Derek Fisher, the shot he made, those were both here in San Antonio. And of course, Kobe always had huge games against the Spurs, whether it was at the Alamo Dome or at the time the SBC Center. Well, David, we can go all day talking about Spurs and Lakers, but that's a wrap for this week's Race for Seis webcast. Remember, check out all the latest Spurs coverage on air, online at KSAT.com. For David Sears, I'm RJ Marquez.
We can go all the way back to Ice German days, Spurs and Lakers, if you want to.